All right, here we go again, section 3. We're going to look at taking shortcuts. And the reason we talk about shortcuts is to give us a chance to talk about advertisements. And advertisements are universally persuasive writing. And so I want it, not because, I want to talk about advertisements. That's not the reason to get into advertisements. It's to get into the persuasive writing. Because you might want to write persuasively. And certainly you're going to read a lot of stuff, or at least encounter a lot of persuasive writing in your life. And so, this is good stuff. It's useful for you. But before we go into it, and this whole idea of the advertising analysis, which I think you'll find kind of fun, maybe not, at least tolerable. But I want to refresh, or at least reinforce the idea of pathos, ethos, logos, not necessarily in that order, which is something that I'm going to use a lot in the course materials for this section. And sometimes people go, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so let me explain it one extra time, and hopefully from this one or from the writing or something else you'll get it. Okay, logos is logic. It's the rational reason why we do something, or why we believe something, or whatever. So let me give you an example. Yesterday, my wife and I went to a bike shop and we bought new bikes, and it was kind of cool. And but there was a guy there. Okay, now this kind of sort of happened, but not exactly. But run with me here for a second. That guy looked at us and he said, "You should buy a bike." Why? Because biking is good exercise, and good exercise will make you healthier and happier. You'll live longer. You'll be more productive. Exercise is good. Biking is a good exercise. You should buy a bike. Okay. We all know this, right? Exercise is good for us. Everybody knows you should eat smart and exercise, right? I mean, if you don't know that stuff, you've been living under a rock. Then why don't we do it? Why do we have people, having major problems, having to have stomach bypass surgery and stuff like that? Well, because we don't live by logos alone, by logic alone. It just doesn't convince us completely. There are other things at work. We are not robots. We are not computers. Computers can operate on logic alone. People don't. And I think we'd be pretty boring if we operated by logic alone. But logos is important. Hopefully, if we don't have logic, then we're really not human at all. We're more like just animals. Okay. So I say to the guy, I don't want to buy a bike. And he said, but you know what got me to buy a bike? I see you're here with your wife. And you've got kids, don't you? And I said, well, yeah. And he said, and you've probably got grandkids, don't you? And I said, well, yeah. You want to see pictures? And he said, let me tell you why I'm buying the bike. I'm here with my wife. His wife waves. I'm here with my sons. His sons are over there. They were obnoxious. And I wanted to ride with them because we would make memories that'll last forever. And I'll help them be healthier. And that's important. I feel like that's what I need to do as a father. That's what you need to do as a father and a grandfather. Give your kids those good memories and give them good health. Yeah. And I'm tearing up. I'm like, I don't take my kids biking. I'm feeling bad. Right? That's pathos. That's the emotion. And most advertising is going to use some emotion. And most persuasive writing is going to use some emotion. It's going to get you here, the logos, but it's going to get you here as well with the pathos. And some people think, oh, we shouldn't use emotion when we write persuasively. Well, that's rubbish. Because, again, we're not robots. We're people. We shouldn't misuse the emotion. We should use it in a reasonable, wise way. Was that guy misusing it? Well, no. Am I going to perhaps go riding a bike with my grandkids? Yeah. And so it wasn't a misuse of it. It was just making me look at it in a little different way. Okay. So that's logos, the logic, pathos, the emotion. But was I ready to buy the bike? In reality, yes, I was. I went in there ready to buy the bike. But then there's ethos. And ethos is the matter of, and this is usually the hardest one, it's a matter of trust. Okay? Do you trust me, or do you think I'm just full of it? That's an open question. And hopefully, there are some things that I will do and say, and things in my, why does the college trust me? Well, part of it's the fact that I've got a PhD and I've got buku years experience teaching and all that stuff. And why do you trust me? Well, there's got letters after his name, and I don't know. Well, hopefully, it's that I say stuff that you go, that kind of sounds right, and I respond to your papers, and that sounds kind of right. And okay, all right. This guy, I got to tell you about this guy. He had obnoxious kids, right? His wife was okay. He was, well, what can I say? He was really tubby. He had to be over 250 pounds. He was a big man. He wasn't tall. He was probably a little bit shorter than me, probably 5'9", 5'10", but really bulky. And that's, we're talking 2-3X shirt. Now wait, come on now. I'm sitting here listening to this guy talk about fitness and exercise, and I'm looking at his waist size and saying, I just don't, I'm not getting it. I'm not believing you. Why would I trust you? Well, this is the reason I'm telling the story. The guy told us that a year ago, he weighed 500 pounds. 500 pounds! Hey, you still weigh 250? Big deal. 500 pounds. He was proud of himself, and he was still working on it. But he should have been proud of himself. 500 pounds. He knew what it did to his relationship with his kids and his wife. He knew what it did to his health. He knew that he could go upstairs without huffing and puffing all the time. And he shared that with us. And you go, oh, okay. I'm going to take you a little more seriously because you've got an experience. You've got some credibility that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So that is an example of ethos, of credibility or trust or character is a word that often gets used. And let me just say, if I came across as somebody who, if I use bad grammar all the time, would you take me seriously? If I couldn't get an idea across, if I couldn't write my way out of a paper bag, would you trust me? Would you say, oh, this guy he can't write himself. Why is he telling me how to write? That's the sort of stuff that we have with ethos. So you're going to look for that in, and let me just say one more thing. Sometimes ethos is much clearer, not because of what you do. Ethos isn't something necessarily that you do. It's something that you can mess up, you can lose. It's sort of like, the figure skaters in the Olympics who go out there and they do their routine, and the judges are looking for them to mess up. And so ethos is often something that we see most clearly when somebody messes up, when they misuse a word, or they mispronounce a word, or they misspell a word, or they have a sentence fragment, or they put their resume in a script font or something like that. Those are all things that sort of say to us, you don't know what you're talking about. And so, and just like that guy in the bike shop, when I looked at him and said, hey man, you're really overweight, I thought, you don't have any credibility. I'm not trusting you. He wasn't trying to sell me a bike or anything. He was just having a good time buying himself a new bike. So, logos is the emotion. It's what do? What are the good logical reasons why you should buy a bike or whatever. Pathos is the emotion. What are the ways that touch you in emotions in your heart? And ethos is, why should I take you seriously? Okay? You're going to see all of those hopefully you'll see all of those in the advertisement you choose. And hopefully you'll also see them in some writings that we're going to look at. And hopefully you're going to use them in the writings that you do. So this is probably something that you're going to see yourself pushing forward more in Comp 2 and other classes, but a little bit in this one too. So good luck on this. Have a great time with it. Pick a great advertisement. I look forward to it.